Minimalists.
Maxims.com.
All right, Carol's got a question. What does a truly healthy friendship look like?
I have a pithy answer for you. I think, let me just be clear about this, because we have to be careful with the word healthy. Quite often we use that to say good. Like, what is a good relationship? And if by good you mean fulfilling, that's one thing. We use good as just sort of this placeholder word. But unfortunately, we often mean good as in like morally good.
Yeah.
And I will just say that there aren't morally good or morally bad relationships. If someone's harming you, then they are being, they are creating these immoral indiscretions, and so that's something different. But if we're talking about a healthy relationship, here's my pithy answer for you. A healthy relationship is one that enhances your life without trying to change the other person. We often say, Ryan, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you. Meaning, I can't say, well, Ryan, I really think that you should cut your arm off. It would really make me happy if you cut your arm off, right?
Right away.
No, instead, it's like, well, I can start to surround myself. That's really what's going to make me happy. I'm going to have to go search for people who have one arm, right? As opposed to trying to sever off my best friend's arm.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a ridiculous, parodic exaggeration. But what it does is it illustrates a point. Instead of changing someone in my life, I can surround myself with supportive, caring people. Also, I found this other definition here that really stood out to me. There's this gal, Emma Krebs. She has a podcast called The Curious One. I know about it because Bex was on her podcast recently, and so was our friend Colin Wright. I told her I would do episode 100 of her podcast, which I think she's about 50 episodes away from, so she has something to work toward. But The Curious One podcast, this is from her Instagram account, at The Curious One Podcast, and she took the screenshot. I think it is a reworking of Dr. Nicole LaPera's thoughts on relationship. And here it says, relationship, noun, a safe space to evolve through life together. Let's break that down for a second. So, a safe space to evolve through life together. So, a healthy relationship, Ryan's and my relationship, or Ryan and Mariah's relationship, for example. It is a safe space, meaning it's not about tension or judgment. If I commit some sort of act or indiscretion or error, it's not about your judgment of me. If I do need help and I ask for help, you'd be willing to help me. I know that. But it's not about changing that other person. That's what that safe space is about. Evolving through life together means that as you change, your relationship changes as well. Bex, on her podcast, How to Love, and I were having this conversation about there isn't really a relationship so much as there's two people who are constantly evolving. And as we travel on the same path together, like when you and I lived with Colin for that year in Missoula, like we were very closely on that same exact path for a year. But then his path sort of bifurcated from ours and for a period of time. But of course, they may come back together at some point as well. And so a relationship doesn't have a defined period of time. It's what is going on right now. And as we change, the quote-unquote relationship changes as well.
Yeah. It's interesting because that definition has the word evolve, right?
Yes.
And evolution is changing.
Right.
So you're not trying to change someone. You are trying to support them in their changes.
That's a great way to put it.
My pithy answer is this. There are three main ingredients in a healthy relationship: love, respect, and understanding. And how to, love people, use things. There is a recipe in there that we have for a healthy relationship. And I think there are 8 ingredients in there.
That's right.
So there are certainly more ingredients than love, respect, and understanding. But I know that this is my context whenever I start to find myself having a knee-jerk reaction or getting a little upset or whatever it is with any of my relationships, romantic, friendships, or even like a colleague. It's like I have to go back to, okay, if I want to de-escalate whatever's happening right now inside of me, then I have to focus on this context of love, respect, and understanding. Because even when you go meet someone for the first time, you go order a coffee. You know, when you're talking to the barista, all they want is they want to see that A, you respect them, B, that you have some type of understanding where they're coming from, and that you're being a genuine, loving, kind person. Like, you can never go wrong with that.
Right.
So if any of those, I will say, if any of those three ingredients are missing from the relationship, it's probably not going to be, maybe instead of healthy, we say meaningful. It wouldn't be a very meaningful relationship if you're missing one of those three ingredients.
I agree with that. And so, yeah, there are 8 ingredients. I'll just go through those real quick. There's a section in Love People Use Things called Repairing and Strengthening Relationships. And it talks about the 8 different ingredients here. What Ryan and I pinpointed the 8 elements of great relationships, of meaningful relationships. And if I were to characterize those elements today, I'd define them as follows. And so I'm not even going to read through all the definitions, but we have love. So you mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
You have trust, honesty. And so trust and honesty are slightly different, and that's why they're both in here. Caring, support, attention, authenticity, and understanding. And then we break down understanding, which has like 4 main ingredients. Respect is one of those ingredients. That's sort of the third ingredient. And I like what you say there, Ryan, about the 3 main ingredients, because like if you make your famous massaman curry, there might be 3 main ingredients, but there's going to be more than 3 ingredients that are important for a meaningful relationship.
Well, yeah, like the massaman curry, actually, it's funny because just to continue the analogy, there are several ingredients just in that curry that have to come together to make the massaman curry. So, and
that can be the understanding. So understanding is tolerance, acceptance, respect, and then appreciation. That's how you truly understand someone. You awaken to that person when you're able to appreciate them, warts and all. Yeah. Now, Ryan, I do want you to talk about real quick the de-escalating, because you mentioned that because de-escalating is an important part of meaningful relationships. So why would someone want to de-escalate in a relationship? You don't always, when you hear that, you don't always associate that with relationships.
Yeah, if you're escalating tension or an argument or whatever it is in a relationship, you are pushing that person further away. And the more you escalate, the more you're going to push, which is going to lead to resentment. It's going to lead to, sometimes it'll lead to you feeling guilty for pushing that person away. I mean, it leads to all types of negative emotions. And unfortunately, it'll eventually lead to a toxic relationship.
Yes.
So de-escalating is going to be the hardest thing to do, especially if you're in the moment and you're very heated and you're very angry and you feel disrespected. It's a very uncomfortable to de-escalate. However, in the long run, like, that's going to be your best option anytime, or 99.999% of the time that you're getting into an argument. I want to talk about respect a little bit, because a lot of people, they have the expectation of they need to be respected.
Oh.
And so and so was disrespecting me, and I'm gonna disrespect them back. But the thing is like, in order to be respected, you have to respect others.
That's how you earn it.
That's how you earn respect, is by respecting others. You don't walk into a situation demanding respect, and then all of a sudden you base your actions off of whether or not that person is respecting you. If they start to disrespect you a little bit, if anything, you should go, again, to de-escalate, go out of your way to respect them, because that's the only way you're actually going to get them to understand where you're coming from.
I want to talk real quick about attention as well, and then we can maybe wrap up by talking about toxic relationships. What is a toxic relationship? We can try to define that a bit. But attention is this fascinating thing, because that is one of the 8 elements that we covered there for a meaningful relationship. Unfortunately, we can have misguided attention. Another way to think of attention is focus, right? So if you focus on something, you may be focusing on the quote-unquote wrong thing of the relationship. Yeah, everyone has their quirks and foibles and idiosyncrasies, and your partner or friend or family member might do one thing that drives you insane, and if you focus on that, then you're actually getting in the way of your overall awareness of the person. Way to think about that is attention is a spotlight, and awareness is a floodlight. And so having awareness of the overall relationship with the other person and seeing them for who they are, not who you hope they will become, who you think they should be, which, by the way, is toxic behavior, trying to change someone. That is a type of violence sometimes, not physical violence, but the change. It's violent the same way an earthquake is violent. It's not physically harming you directly, although it can indirectly harm you, but it is forcing the change upon you. That is that's frustrating. And what it does then, that attention, think about the word attention, attention. And so if we're just paying attention to all of those things that drive us crazy about the relationship, of course it's bubbling up this tension inside us, as opposed to that awareness. If there's full, open-hearted awareness for the relationship, then there's a type of respect, but also appreciation for the other person. And if you're able to get there, then you're able to truly understand them. And no matter what they do, they cannot harm you. Because who told you that you're supposed to be respected? Who told you that you're supposed to be loved? No. You're not supposed to be anything. If someone loves you, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But as Ryan said, back in the corporate days, it was sort of like, I'm going to force these people to be my friend. And it's like, well, if I'm forcing you to be my friend, am I really your friend?
I remember I was like so heartbroken one time when I thought, it was an employee of mine too. Like it wasn't even like, we weren't even like colleagues in the sense as like he worked for me. And I just remember, I forget what, I've asked him to do something like to hang out or something. He's like, no, dude. He's like, no, I have my own life at home. I just remember being like, you do? What's that like?
Right. And so that's a type of solipsism, right? Solipsism says, I am the center of the universe. And the thing is, we're all solipsistic in that way, because we all, in our heads, unless we stop and have that awareness that we talked about a moment ago, unless we have an open-hearted, open-eyed awareness for the world and the people and the things around us, then all of a sudden it's all about me. And I get it. It makes sense, because it's my attention is always emanating from my consciousness. It's me watching my television, looking at my phone, reading my book, drinking my water. And so, of course, that's our point of view. What awareness does allows us to step back and say, okay, that's an illusion. You could call it the illusion of self, but it's an illusion that I am the center of the universe. And if you realize that that's an illusion, then all of a sudden the I am suffering, or I am angry, or I am upset, or I am tense is also an illusion. Tension is appearing. Anger is appearing. And no one has permission to make you angry. You are making yourself angry in every relationship. And it's really hard for us to deal with that. And even now, like, sometimes people make me angry, but do they really? Yeah. It's like if the rain comes through and rains all over your picnic, Ryan, was the rain angry, or are you angry? Was the rain upset, or are you upset? Well, you made that decision, either consciously or unconsciously, to be upset by it. The world goes on with or without your reactive emotion to it. And so whoever told you that you're supposed to be respected or loved or anything else, no. Those are ingredients for a meaningful relationship. But you also have to earn those ingredients by reciprocating. Well, the best way to reciprocate is to do it in advance.
Yeah.
Can we talk about toxic relationships? What is a toxic relationship? I have a loose definition I want to talk to you about, because I think this word is often it's been overused and vapidized over the last decade or so. We see it all the time now, talking about toxic relationships. Yeah. But for me, a toxic relationship is one that tries to change me, or one that pressures me. So it's either abusive, that's a type of pressure. It can be physical abuse, emotional abuse, or it can just be passive aggression, right? Yeah. That is also toxic behavior. So I really look at those three ingredients. There's some sort of abuse, there is the passive aggressive nature, or someone is trying to change me. Unfortunately, we try to change people all the time. Yeah. You know what that's like, Ryan? That's like if, say I go to the doctor because I've got ulcers in my stomach, right? And I'm like, oh, doctor, can you prescribe some medicine for my neighbor, for my best friend, because I have ulcers in my stomach? And he'd be like, yeah, sure. I'd be like, oh, great. Now I feel better because now I'm changing him with this medicine. Well, no. I need to look inward and change whatever's going on with me. The prescription is not for someone else. I don't need to fix you, Ryan. I simply need to readjust the way that I'm interacting with the world. Did you enjoy this video? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists today. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.